सहनाक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः 66th verse of the second chapter. Naste buddhirayuktasya न चायुक्तस्य भावना न चाभावयतः शान्तिः अशान्तस्य कुतः सुखम् नास्ति बुद्धिरयुक्तस्य न चायुक्तस्य भावना न चाभावयतः शान्तिः अशान्तस्य कुतः सुखम्. We are in the middle of this verse. We saw here how Adi Shankara in the Bhashya is winding up this discussion, because the Bhagavad Gita herself is winding up the discussion. And what is this discussion? It started with yatatopi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. We saw. And where did we see this? In the last life. Okay. Yeah. So we saw that that is the beginning of this downward spiral. Verse number 60. That's the downward spiral starting from that. Yatataha api. So even somebody may be working hard, endeavoring for emotional maturity, for spiritual growth, but still what happens? Haranti prasabham manaha. Unmanaged desires catch hold and take one off. So that is the whole discussion right now. That is exactly the discussion. So we saw how this Vishayas, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha, etc., etc. And then that section is now being concluded by praising what the Bhagavad Gita calls Shanti. If you ask people, do you want Shanti? They will say, no. What do you want? Happiness is what I want. And who cares about Shanti? Give me happiness any day. That's what they will say. But what the Bhagavad Gita tells is that the Shanti that you want and the happiness that you want are what? One and the same. Because what is happiness? Happiness is not being bothered. What is Shanti? Not being bothered by anything, including the inner turmoil and all that. And then what is, what is happiness? Happiness is a sense of contentment centered on the I. What is Shanti? Ditto. And what is happiness? Feeling like all my wishes are fulfilled at least for the next 5 minutes. That is happiness. I got what I wanted. Shanti is the effect of getting what you want, and what you really want is to not want. That is what the message of the Upanishad and the Bhagavad Gita is. And here is where a lot of people will want to disagree with me, with the Shastra, because they say if you don't want anything in life, then you are impeding progress. You're impeding progress. How will all the, what is that thing? How will all the discoveries take place? Discoveries have to take place, and discoveries have desire behind them, and discoveries need to take place. What else needs to take place? Some kind of a drive must be there. Without drive there are no discoveries, no inventions, nothing at all. And then without that, everybody sits and pines for moksha and everybody is trying to get over their indriyas and the sense organs and keep them resolved, shamadama, uparati, etc. And then what else? And then everybody wants wants a life of dharma. So life of dharma, according to many people, is a boring. A life of dharma is a very boring life, because that means you're not competitive. You need to be competitive, and all is fair. In competition everything is fair. Even if you undercut somebody else's product and then you falsely advertise your product, yes, it will grow hair. It won't. Okay. It just will not. How many products are there? Ask all the bald men. They know, they are wise. Now they finally have vairagya towards what? Towards all these hair raising, literally, products. So towards all these hair raising products, they have total vairagya now, because nothing works. Same thing. And then, anti wrinkle creams, it won't work. It'll work for, everything works for 5 days. After that, on the sixth day, nature rules, nature wins. Nothing bigger than Prakriti, because Prakriti is a manifestation of Bhagavan. So you can't fight against Prakriti. And because Prakriti will cause Vikriti. Vikriti means deformity. so so therefore what? You see, all these are battles. All these are battles that one keeps fighting, and then one justifies the fight by staying in the fight, by saying competition is healthy for a society to grow, for an individual to grow. Competition is healthy because that will give, because that will fuel, that will put air on my ambitions. And ambitions are good, because without ambition the person may as well be in a permanently vegetative state. What is the desire to get up the next morning? What is the desire to do anything? Nothing at all. And so, therefore, Shanti is overrated. And all these things of withdrawing the sense organs from the sense objects, managing the desires, etc., is just too much. And all that has to go. Because otherwise, the society will come to a standstill. Actually, it is Arjuna's argument. So as ancient as the Bhagavad Gita, this argument, don't think this is all because of modern technology and everything. No, this argument is as ancient as the Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, we have this argument. This very argument is there. And what is the argument? That comprises the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. then I don't want this war. And then if this war is there, then everything will come to a standstill. The men will all die, and the women, of course, poor things, they cannot manage anything. And then they will be abducted by foreign invaders. They can't protect themselves, and they cannot do anything, and so they will be abducted by foreign invaders, and our culture will go, our samskriti will go because of this war. So this war must not be fought. See, you can give any argument. Logic is like a donkey, really. Because you can keep piling things on the donkey, and poor thing, its legs are tottering, but it is, donkey is called donkey because it is able to carry a lot of weight. I think it can carry about 2 times or 3 times its weight, 4 times its weight. And so therefore logic is like a donkey. You can make it carry whatever, pre-conclusions you have, number one, and then you can make it go in whichever direction you want. That is logic. I can also have a logic. Arjuna had his own logic, and Arjuna's logic was shut down. Why? Because inside that was really not a logic. He was triggered, and he was affected by his own raga and dvesha, by his own not wanting to fight the war. He didn't want to fight the war, but for the wrong reasons. He didn't want to fight the war, not because he was worried about the women getting widowed. No, he gave that as a justification. And the same person who is worried about the women getting widowed now in the first chapter, before that, for 12 years, he had been very bloodthirsty and just rubbing his hands in glee. Let them come in front of me. Let me show you what I can do to these people. And even in the beginning of the first chapter, he was in the same place. What is that place? That place is the place of wanting to fight. Because that's what he tells. He tells the fellow. He tells Krishna, hey, put my chariot between the two armies because I want to see what they are doing. I want to, see who dares to fight with me. That's not that's not the cry. That's a battle cry. That's not the cry of somebody who doesn't want to fight the war. When Krishna took the chariot and quietly put it in front of all the elders in the battlefield, Arjuna heard a knocking sound. What was that? His own knees. Yeah. Knock, knock, who is there? Niece, niece who? Look at all your nephews standing in the battlefield. That's what it is. Look at all of them. These people played in your lap. And then look to the other side. Who are they? These are the people in whose lap you sat and drank milk when you were a child. Pitamaha, grandfather, uncles, teacher, Drona, Guru. And how can you do this? That's when he loses his courage, and that's when he says, I can't fight, I can't do this, I have to go, I have to just do this. So therefore, uh, based on this argument that one has to be a doer, there is a lot of justification. And that justification is flawed for two very important and very big reasons. The first reason it is flawed is that doership and action are two different things. People don't understand this. You can act without doership. And when you act without doership, your actions become a blessing for yourself and others. That is the idea. Look at Pujya Swamiji, how much he did. And if that is the if non-doing, if non-acting is the definition of Atmajnanam, if that is the definition, then we may as well close off the class, because in teaching I am doing, and in listening you are receiving. So, and you turned on the computer, you are there, so then there is no hope of Atmajnanam for anybody, for either for either the teacher or the taught. So that is not the idea. The idea is to not give up action. Whether one gives up action or not is their choice. Sometimes it's not even a choice, it's prarabdha. That's why some swamis, after gaining this knowledge, sit and lead a cushy life. Not in our tradition, but there are a few. There are a few. They just sit. People come to them and they say, Swami, we are having a very hard time. I'm having marital difficulties. If somebody says, what marriage? What difficulty? No, Swamiji, the life is full of challenges. What life? This world. What Jagat? Then you have nothing more to say. And they just sit. And they are even simply sitting. They radiate this knowledge and this glory and the shanti and the quietude. Why? Because of their prarabdha. Not their prarabdha to gain the knowledge. That is purushartha. That is your will to gain the knowledge. But prarabdha means whether you are going to act or not after you gain this knowledge. Then there are certain other Swamis, after gaining the knowledge, like our own Pujya Swamiji, do not sit still even for a second. They are always in sanchara, meaning they are moving all the time. And so therefore, what? Therefore, this is something which is very, very important to understand, that knowledge and action are not what is targeted. They are not contradictory to one another. Knowledge and doership are contradictory to one another. This is the first reason why all this logic that if everybody gets self knowledge, then the world will come to a standstill is totally flawed. And the second reason why this argument is flawed is because it refuses to see the difference between binding and non-binding desires. What are binding desires? Binding desires are those which trap you because you have to have something. When? Just now. Yesterday. I want it yesterday. I have to absolutely have it. That is the idea. And so therefore, this kind of a difficulty, these two difficulties lead one to the wrong conclusion, that inaction is bad and action is good. And then if action is spurred by desires, how can desires be bad? We are not talking of desire. Desire is Bhagavan. We will be taught that in the 7th chapter. Kamosmi Bharatarshabha. Dharma aviruddha bhuteshu kamosmi. I am that desire that does not contradict dharma. That's another thing. And in fact, we can even give a third reason why the logic is flawed, because really the dharma is what makes the world run. If dharma comes to a standstill, then that is when we are looking at the debacle. That is how many civilizations came to an end. And so therefore, here in verse 66, so we saw nasti buddhihi ayuktasya. So therefore the restraint not in desire, but restraint in the execution of unenquired desires. That is the restraint. Restraint in the execution of unenquired into desires. Desires that have not been vetted. You vet the desire through certain channels. Is it according to dharma? No. Okay, gone. I really want this person in my life. I want to marry this person. Is it dharmic? No. Why? Well, they're already married. Is it dharmic? No. Why? Because I'm a brahmachari. Then also it's not dharmic. Is it dharmic? No. Because why? They are 50 years older than I am. These things happen. These things happen. Once, Pujya Swamiji met this man, and he said, he was 82, and he said, Swamiji, you please bless me, and I have a new girlfriend. Swamiji said that if I could sweat, I would have sweated at that time. He was very worried. Uh, he would have brought somebody in their 20s and how to bless this kind of a union. But fortunately, the girlfriend was what? 82 and a half. So 6 months older than him. Then Swamiji said, no problem. You have all my prayers and blessings. So like this, certain things are not dharmic. Either they cross samanya dharma, which is in the first instant, the person that I want to marry is already married, or they cross vishesha dharma. The person that somebody wants to marry is not married, but let's say they are a sannyasi or on their way to becoming a sannyasi. Then you don't cause disturbance. That is vishesha dharma. You don't cause disturbance. Or the person one wants to marry is not right. Why? Because you yourself are on the way to becoming a sannyasi and you don't want to complicate your life, or you are already a sannyasi and this is not for you. And so you say, okay, this does not is not vetted by dharma. So that desire, you have to bid it a farewell. So even if you feel like crying, smiling, you say bye. Don't say see you later. Just say bye-bye. That's what it is. So then, so that is the first level of vetting. Is it right? Is it samanya dharma? Is it right universally? No. Then, okay, gone. Is it right under these circumstances? No. Is it right? Is it the correct thing for me to do? No. Why? Because let's say the person who is wanting this desire is already married. And so I want to marry somebody else. And so what to do? I can convert. No need to do all that. Better to inquire into a desire rather than convert into a tradition that allows many marriages. There is no need to do that, because that itself shows that there is some kind of a circumambulating, this kind of a desire, and doing puja to this kind of a desire to find a way out. So then, na asti buddhi. So the person who has vetted the desire through the filter of dharma is called the one who has buddhi. So na asti buddhi ayuktasya buddhi nasti. So the buddhi of a ayukta means the one who is not together with dharma, with the needed restraint to be able to withdraw the sense organs, because certain things are not dharmic. So na asti buddhi. No buddhi is there. Buddhi here is self-knowledge. So the buddhi of the person has gone to graze, is not available because it has gone to graze in the land of self objects, sense objects. And so how will you teach the person? They will say, yes, when will the class be over? I have to go to the mall. I have to go here. I have to go there. That's why ashrams are not near anything. They are far away. And that's why people living in the ashrams are called inmates. They're called inmates of what? The zenitentiary, we can say. Okay. Yeah. So they are called inmates. Why? Because there should not be an out immediately. Because if you just go out and then there is, you should never build a ashram, with walking distance of a movie theater. Gone. Finished. Destroyed. May as well invest in building another movie theater. That's much better. And you should never build an ashram behind or next to a shopping mall. MAUL, where you go to get mauled of your sanity. So then those are two places where you should not build. And then if there is some kind of a shopping complex, high end, with restaurants and everything, that's one more place where you must not build an ashram. But then what to do if the ashram is there and then after that these places come up? You can't do anything. You count the brahmacharis and you know who has gone out to eat. You know that. Because they are not there for 3 meals in a row. The three meals. Oh, only one meal they went out. The other 2 meals they spent recovering after going out. Then they spent the other two meal times in the bathroom. Okay, and so this is how you know. and, and so therefore, so here, so self-knowledge, buddhi here is the only reason. Buddhi is conflated in this verse along with the ability to know this vidya. The faculty of knowledge is conflated with the subject matter of the knowledge itself. Why? Because that's what the buddhi is made for. Because without that knowledge the buddhi is just without that buddhi of being committed to that knowledge, one is a buddhu means no buddhi. Yeah, very small difference. So this self knowledge is not there for the person who has no restraint. Ayuktaha, devoid of any kind of a vetting way to deal with the desires. Na ayuktasya bhavana. Bhavana here means the ability to quietly interrogate one's desires, the ability to develop an introspective and contemplative nature. Otherwise, even for 5 minutes, you have difficulty sitting with yourself. Not even for 5 minutes you can sit. And so, therefore, the nacha ayuktasya bhavana. Bhavana also is the craving for this knowledge is not there. Na abhavayatah. Abhavayatah means for the one who is not contemplative and doesn't have internal quietude, na shantihi. Shanti is not there for that person. Ashantasya kutas sukham. How can there be happiness for the one who is having no shanti? No shanti with regard to not being able to take care of the desires. Bhashya na asti na vidyate na bhavati ityarthah. See, Adi Shankara is very, very interesting. Because he could have, see, nasti is a very simple word, na asti. And he need not even have defined it. But he wants to emphasize, so he defines it in two different ways. Na bhavati, na vidyate is not there. What is not there? Na bhavati, buddhihi. Buddhi is not there. And how does he define buddhi? Atmaswarupa vishaya ayuktasya asamahita antahkaranasya buddhihi na vidyate. Buddhihi is knowledge. What is that knowledge? Atmaswarupa vishaya buddhihi. The buddhi whose dwelling, whose subject matter, whose preoccupation is with the nature of the I. That buddhi is not there. For who? Ayuktaha. Who is ayuktaha? Asamahita antahkaranaha yasya saha. Asamahita antahkaranaha yasya saha. Asamahita antahkaranasya. Samahita. Samahita from dha, to keep. Same thing, samadhi. To keep, to place in one place. So sam and a plus dha, past participle. So samahita. Samahita means kept together. Who? What? Antahkarana. The one. And asamahita means not kept together. Not kept together. The negation is always done at the end. First you put all your prefixes, some plus a and everything. You don't put some and then a negation. No. Then it's very confusing. Whether what you are trying, and the negation should come at the negation is the last operation after all your prefixes have been affixed in their proper places. And then lastly you put a for words starting with consonants, or you put an for words starting with vowels. That's the negative particle. So, na vidyate asamahita antahkaranasya. So, for the person who does not have a composed antahkarana, this Atma Swarupa Vishaya Buddhihi. So, the Buddhi either established in Atma Swarupa Vishaya, but the Buddhi whose dwelling place is the subject matter of the I, or the Buddhi who wants to dwell in the subject matter of the I is not there. Cha, furthermore, na asti ayuktasya bhavana. The introspective nature is not there. But bhavana here, Adi Shankara has translated differently. Let's see. Atmajnana abhiniveshaha. Abhinivesha, very lovely word, from wish to enter. Abhinivesha. Abhinivesha means intent, intense desire, preoccupation, drive, ambition. All that is called abhinivesha. And so that abhinivesha for atmajnanam, atmajnanasya abhinivesha nasti. No desire, no intense intention to pursue self-knowledge is not there. So here the Bhagavad Gita makes and Adi Shankara in the Bhashya makes a correlation, a very interesting correlation between the ability to collect one's sense organs from straying constantly towards the desirable objects, and one's desire for Atmajnana. So the desire for Atmajnanam goes up when the desire for the objects goes down. There's an inverse concomitant relationship. Desire goes down for all these various objects, and then the desire for Atmajnana goes up. And one may say, yeah, that happens because there's nothing else to desire. Okay, may as well desire this. No. You have a choice. You can run away. But you don't run away. Why? Because this is really the original desire. There is no other desire. Okay, so Atmajnana abhiniveshaha na asti. Kaha, for whom? Kasya na asti, ayuktasya na asti. And then further, tatha nacha asti abhavayatah atmajnana abhinivesham akurvatah shantihi upashamah. Tathacha, in the same manner, na asti. This is all a very nice, each thing is contingent upon the other thing. So, na asti, what is not there? Abhavayatah. For the one who doesn't have bhavana. Who is the one who doesn't have bhavana? Atmajnana abhinivesham akurvatah. Akurvatah, for the one who is not doing. Not doing. Akurvatah is not past tense, okay? Yeah, here because we are used to looking at verbs, and whenever the comes, we think it's past tense. Kurvatah, present participle for the one who is doing. Akurvatah, for the one who is not doing. Not doing what? Atmajnana abhiniveshanam. So the one who is not entering into knowledge of the self, the one who has no aspirations for the knowledge of the self, the one who has no drive for the knowledge of the self. So that is the person that is completely off, completely off. And then so the one who has no peace of mind, no peace of mind. Why? So no shanti is there. Like I said last time, the only way to get shanti is to be married to somebody called Shanti. No, no other possibility is there to have shanti with you. And then so atmajnana abhinivesham akurvatah shantihi upashamah nasti. No peace of mind, nothing. And then, okay, so what if I don't have peace of mind? Then it is talked about ashantasya kutas sukham. Ashantasya kutas sukham. And Bhashya says, Indriyanam hi vishaya seva trishnatah nivrittihi ya tat sukham. Bhashyakara defines sukham in a very beautiful way. Very nice, beautiful definition of sukham. Indriyanam he yasmat. He has many meanings. Yasmat you can take because ashantasya kutas sukham. Katham, why? Because he yasmat, because indriyanam hi vishaya seva trishnatah nivrittihi. What is sukha? Sukha is nivritti. Nivritti means freedom. Oh, I like this definition. Sukha means nivritti, I want freedom. Yes, but free, to be free means free from what? We have to see. To be free, if you say, I want to be free, it is a sakarmaka dhatu, it is a transitive verb. To be free of what? You can't just say, I want to be free. Then free of what? That question it begs. And certain verbs do not beg that question. I sit. I sit what? You can't say. It is an intransitive verb. But here it's a sakarmaka dhatu. And if it is a sakarmaka dhatu, then what do we say? This nivrittihi. Nivrittihi from what? Vishaya seva trishnatah. Tasil, panchami. So that freedom from, that from is there in this suffix taha. Panchamyas tasil. It's a, instead of using panchami, you can use just taha. Okay. So then, so from what? From Vishaya Seva. Seva means everybody knows the meaning of the word Seva. Guru Seva, Ashram Seva, Gurukula Seva, and then Go Seva. Go Seva doesn't mean go do Seva. Go means cow. Okay. Yeah. So Go Seva, Gurukula Seva, we know Seva. And then so Seva here means Indriya Seva. So seva to the indriyas. So it is like you are putting fuel into the ears. For what? Disco and heavy metal music, which nobody in their right ears can hear. But many teenagers and all they like. And then for the eyes, you constantly want something to be looking at. Something that is wonderful to be looking at. Some wonderful means ragadveshatah, something that you like. you want to keep looking at, and you want all the objects of ragadveshas to be there, and for the sense organs to be naturally hooked and connected to the ragadveshas. And Bhagavan, Bhashyakara here says that that is not the way. So, Indriya Seva means what? Vishaya Seva. Indriya Seva is Vishaya Seva. Because how else are you going to make the Indriyas happy? You have to give them. You have to keep giving them some object to eat. The mouth is keeping on looking, and the tongue is only 3 inches long, right? And then, based on the tongue, there are thousands of restaurants for just 3 inches. After that, you may as well be on a feeding tube. You don't taste anything. But for those 3 inches, you have to have so much taste, and it has to be just like that. And then some what is that, some agency called Michelin will come and give 1 star to the restaurant, and everybody wants to go there because it has got some kind of a some jihva, some kind of a jihva trishna. It satisfies. And then and then by contrast, the food that one gets in the ashram deliberately is what? It has taste. Definitely it has taste. But it's not what you define as tasty. It is not all these various complicated spices and complicated things are not there on purpose. So the tongue just sits, okay? The tongue just sits. And then and then whenever you talk, you get into trouble. So the tongue, which doubles as a as a karmendriya and a jnanendriya, sits quietly, learns to sit quietly. So Atma Jnana Abhinivesha is connected to Indriya Vishaya Trishna and not doing seva. So Sevayaha Nivrittihi. That is the Nivritti. Freedom from constantly having to propitiate the sense organs. That is the Nivritti. That is the freedom. And so Vishaya Seva. Objects also, one starts to do Seva to the objects. Why? Because one is dependent upon them. And if the objects are connected to people, one gets even more enslaved. Because then, oh, can I go do this here? Can you give me this? Can you give me that? We become dependent on the people. We depend because one is dependent upon the things connected to the peoples. So it is all a very dysfunctional arrangements. So Sukha is freedom from the indriyas, the thirst, Trishna, freedom from disconnecting, the freedom from being able to disconnect the starving indriyas from the objects. That is the idea. And the indriyas then just sit quietly. Tat eva sukham. That is the sukha. So again, happiness is Vishaya Seva Trishnataha Nivrittihi. Freedom from having to keep on fulfilling the desires for objects demanded by the indriyas, and that longings, that freedom from that longing is called sukha. Na vishaya trishna. Not the desiring for objects. Not the desiring for objects. That is not what is called Trishna. Dukkham hi eva sa. Sa is what? Trishna. Don't say sa is dukkham. No. Because dukkham neuter. Okay. If the then we wouldn't have said sa. What would we have said? Dukkham hi tat, we would have said. Dukkham hi sa. You have to be careful about the gender, because sometimes we have these we have these kinds of things like sentences. Shita hisa jalasya prakritihi. If we say the nature of water is, it is to be cold. It is the nature of water to be cold. So then that sa is not qualifying jalam. Sa is qualifying prakritihi. Sa prakritihi jalasya shita. Prakritihi. Okay. So here also something like this. Dukkham hi sa. Dukkham hi eva sa. What sa? Trishna. The longing is what is dukkha. The longing is what is causes dukkha. How can there be any happiness based on that? Na trishnayam satyam sukhasya gandhamatramapi upapadyate. Ityartha. So gandhamatram means, see, trishnayam satyam, when there is trishna, sati saptami, absolute locative construction. So when there is trishna, when there is terrible, terrible longing, then what happens? Then there is, then there is, then there is no sukha that we saw. When there is longing, even the little whiff, gandhamatram, means even a little whiff of sukha is not to be there. Like, there is a bush with flowers that come only at night. We call it night queen. It is there in India. So then in the evening, if you're taking a walk and you pass by this bush, a little nice fragrance comes and the fragrance goes away after you pass it. And then that itself is enough to put you in a good mood. How nice, very nice, beautiful smell, subtle. So here, there is not even a whiff, a passing whiff of happiness is not even there for the one who is mired in longing. Krishnayam Satyam. When the longing is there, that is the meaning. So then, Ayuktasya kasmat buddhihi na asti iti uchyate. So ayuktasya means devoid of yukti, devoid of being together with the indriyas and away from the being hijacked by the sense objects. Ayuktasya kasmat. How is that person not spiritually inclined? So buddhi means self-knowledge. How come the self-knowledge doesn't come? Just because I have longing. Why can't I also have a longing for self-knowledge? This is not fair. I should be able to have little bit of samsara, little bit of moksha. I should be able to do this very nicely. No problem at all. But how come I have to choose? It's not good. I don't want to choose. If you are going to say, then Indriyanam hi charatam yन्मनोनुविधीयते तदस्य हरति प्रज्ञां वायुर्नावमिवाम्भसि इन्द्रियाणां हि चरतां यन्मनोनुविधीयते तदस्य हरति प्रज्ञां वायुर्नावमिवाम्भसि Indriyanam hi charatam. Charatam indriyanam. They are in apposition. So the roving senses. Senses are roving. Okay. Roving means moving around too much. Roaming senses. Roving senses means roaming senses. So charatam hi indriyanam, for the roaming senses, yat manaha anuvidhiyate. The mind also follows. That's the problem here. So it's not just about catching hold of the senses, because when you catch hold of the senses, what happens? The mind is also in place, and that mind and buddhi then can go towards self knowledge. But otherwise, the indriyas go and graze in their areas in the grasses of the desirable objects. And then what happens to the mind? Tata. Mind also follows. Mind also goes. So, in other words, the mind is hijacked, the mind is enslaved by the indriyas. Yat manaha anuvidhiyate. It's like that. There's one ancient story that the people were sick of their king. He was full of bhraštachara. He was a very bhraštachari. He was very corrupt fellow, and then they were just so sick of the king that they drove him out of the kingdom. Now a new king has to be appointed. They just blackened his face and put him upside, wrong side on the donkey, and sent him out of town, sent him out of the kingdom. So new king has to be appointed. They said it's much better to not just have favoritisms and do this, who is the senior and everything. So they made a sankalpa. Whoever passes the palace next will be our new king. It happened to be a dog. Then they said, oh, dog is our new king. So they put the dog, they first gave it a flea dip bath because roadside dog, okay, and because it was scratching itself with its hind leg and all these things. So then they gave it a nice golden collar studded with rubies, and they made it, and gave it a velvet cushion, and then made it sit on the palace throne. And then they did arati. They put a little tilak, and they did arati. Oh, you are now our god. You are not dog, and you are our king. It liked all the attention. It wagged the tail. It went along with the program for a while. Then out of the palace courtyard, in the courtyard, it saw its girlfriend. And then what did it do? It immediately got down. And then they were trying to hold it. No, 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 you can't go. You are our king. What do you mean I'm your king? My girlfriend is going there. And that girlfriend was rolling in the mud outside. And this fellow has just had a bath. He didn't think of all this. That is wonderful. That is what she's doing. I'm also going to do that. And then so he got down from the throne, and then they tried to restrain him, and he bit all of them, growled, because he was being, thwarted from what he wanted to do. Then he went, and then he also rolled in the mud, got dirty, and that was the end of that. Okay, so that is how the mind also follows. So the girlfriend is the Indriyas, and this dog that was sitting in the throne is the mind, okay, in this story. So the mind also follows the the Trishna, what is it called? Trishna means the desire, the longing of the Indriyas is powered by the mind. So the mind is also hijacked. And then what happens? Tadasya prajnam harati. Tadasya prajnam harati. Harati means gone away, taken away, hijacked. And what? Prajna. Prajna is gone. What is prajna? Wisdom. The wisdom, atma, anatma, viveka, gone. And what should be done, what should not be done? Karya, viveka, gone. What I should be doing, what I should not be doing, what I should be knowing, what I should not be knowing, all gone. Pragyam harati. How? Vayuhu navam iva ambhasi. Ambhasi, ambhasi, seventh case, in the waters. Ambhasi, in the waters. Vayuhu iva, like the wind in the waters. What? Navam harati. That harati should double here. Harati should be used twice. Yatha vayuhu ambhasi navam harati, tatha, in the same manner, indriyanam charatam prajnam harati. Same thing. So just like a small boat, here you should not think of a cruise ship. No, a lot of big things in the, they are made to withstand storms. But a small boat going in rough, choppy waters full of wind, what will it do? It will become ulta, and glub, 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 it will go down. It will capsize because it cannot withstand this wind, the force of the wind. The wind makes a very important place. The wind has a very important place in the Bhagavad Gita. And in the 6th chapter, we are told that the mind should be Nivata Deepavat, like a light devoid of the strong winds. For the mind ready for contemplation, ready for meditation, must be Nivata Deepavat. And then again, also in the 6th chapter, Arjuna is told to mind the mind. And then he says, Vayoho iva dushkaram. What you have told me to do is to quieten the mind. Why? Because it is very difficult. If you had asked me to bring you some wind, I could have got that easily, but I cannot mind the mind. Why can't you mind the mind? Because it is being slaved by the indriyas. It is not available for you. It is slaved by the indriyas, which are which are enslaved by the objects of desire. So all behind everything is this raga dvesha philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita. It is so amazing, really. It's very, very nice. And so this is this is this is what it is. So the very beautiful imagery is there. Bhashya. Indriyanam he here is yasmat, because indriyanam hi charatam. Charatam, roaming. Where? Swasva Vishayeshu. So in their own areas they roam. Like the area of the ears roam only in the area of what? Sound. Eyes are roaming in the area of form, shape, color. That's what is the eye's job. And then the nose is roaming to see if there is any pakodas being fried anywhere. So that is where the nose is going. So swasva vishayeshu, in their own vishayas, pravartamananam indriyanam. Pravartamananam means those that are very eagerly roaming around. Pravartamananam, indulging in their respective areas of action. And then what else? Then pravartamananam yat manaha anuvidhiyate. Anuvidhiyate, anupravartate, he translates. Vartate, pravartate, anupravartate. So, vartate is. Pravartate, forcibly is. In a special way is, goes. And then anupravartate, follows. Follows without being able to stop that following. Follows helplessly. Anupravartate. What anupravartate? Manaha anupravartate. The mind doesn't keep quiet. The mind also follows the indriyas, which are following what? The objects of longing. Objects of longing, mind you, can be people also. People, think, events, and also other desires which are difficult to objectify, like name, fame, etc. All that are objects of longing. Okay, so then pravartamananam yat manaha anuvidhiyate anupravartate tat indriya vishaya vikalpane pravrittam manaha asya yatehe harati prajnam. Indriya vishaya vikalpane pravrittam manaha. So, what is that? Which the mind which follows the sense organs. And what are the sense organs doing? Indulging in their respective orbits of action, and which distinguishes the vishayas of each sense. What happens to that mind? It destroys the person's knowledge. It destroys the person's knowledge. What kind of knowledge? Viveka. Atma Anatma Viveka. And Karya Viveka. All these different kinds of Vivekas that one has. Yatehe. Yatehe means not Muni here, but not a person of knowledge here, whose knowledge is yet to be established. The one who is not just not necessarily a jnani, but a jnani who wants to, jnani want to be. I wanna be a jnani. Jnani wanna be. Okay. So tadasya harati prajna yatehe harati yatehe indriya vishaya vikalpana. Vikalpana means all these choices. Various vikalpas are there. Pravrittam. So the mind is now engaged in making choices. Should I have this or that? Well, why not have both? Because I can. Okay. Pravrittam manah asya gatehe harati prajnam. What is prajna? Atma anatma vivekajam prajnam. So the prajna here is not atma jnanam. Prajna here is viveka. Born of ja means born of prajna feminine ja, atma anatma viveka. Atma anatma vivekabhyam jata prajna harati. Harati means nashayati. It causes it to destroy. Katham, how? That we will see next week. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. That's it.